Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Devo. I'm Brent, and today we're going to be talking about the root of temptation. So I'll never forget the day when my son, who was 3 years old at the time, told his first lie. It was around the holidays, and like any typical toddler, he was tempted to open his Christmas presents. Well, it wasn't quite Christmas yet, and we gave him explicit instructions that he was to wait until Christmas morning. About a week before Christmas, my wife and I walked downstairs and noticed that one of the presents was open. We both looked at our son and said, "LB, did you open this present?" He boldly looked at both of us and said, "No." Listen, the reason why I may never forget this moment is because at the time, I realized that my son had never heard me or his mother tell a lie, nor did we teach him how to lie. So how did he figure out how to do this? I want to turn your attention to James chapter 1, verses 13 through 15. Here's what it says. "And remember, when you are being tempted, do not say, 'God is tempting me.' God is never tempted to do wrong, and he never tempts anyone else. Temptation comes from our own evil desires, which entice us and drag us away. These desires give birth to sinful actions, and when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death." My son, you, me, we're all born into sin and shaped in iniquity. And unfortunately, until the day we die, we have to fight this thing that Paul calls our sinful nature. You and I, from time to time, are going to be faced with things that will tempt us. But James wants to make it explicitly clear that temptation never comes from God. You see, just before verse 13, James tells us that God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. You see, God will bless you when you endure temptation, but never think for a single moment that God is the one who's tempting you. Let's go back to the story of my son for a second. I blessed my son with Christmas gifts and put them out under the tree before Christmas, not because I wanted to tempt him, but because I loved him. However, because my son allowed his temptation to get the best of him, he was enticed and dragged away by his own desires. Those desires led him to opening a gift that he was told not to open, and when he was caught, it gave birth to a sin, which was a lie. That lie eventually led to a death which consisted of him having to give that particular present away. The bad news is this: the root of our temptation comes from our own desires. We fall into temptation when we choose to follow self instead of following him. The good news is believers have the Holy Spirit, who not only help us overcome temptation, but also helps us plant new seeds that produce new desires, that produce a fruitful life. So in closing, if you find yourself tempted, my prayer is that instead of choosing you should choose him. Choosing your way could lead to death, but choosing his way leads to a fruitful life.